I've been going through some of the content on the forthcoming EDM course, which is something that Mike Coughlin has developed for Point Blank, and it features Tempo Giusto and also Martin Roth as well. And these guys have put together a really wicked course on EDM in Ableton. And I was thinking to myself, I haven't done anything on Ableton for a long time on my YouTube channel, so I thought I'd do something, and I set myself a little challenge here. One of the things I used to do in my sound design lessons at Point Blank was to create a synthesizer from a raw waveform, all right? And if you've got Ableton and you don't have things like operator and analog, if you've got the very basic version of Ableton, all you've got is something like Simpler, and that's going to be the tool that you can use for a lot of the stuff that you're making. So I'm going to create a complete tune, or at least the musical elements of the complete tune, using just simplers and 2 sampled waveforms. That's it. So I'm going to do the whole tune, right? So just a sampled waveform, and one of these is going to be a musical sampled waveform. So I'm going to use a sawtooth, which is a very versatile waveform. We could do a lot with that. And also a noise waveform. So I'm getting these from the Native Instruments content library. Inside the content library, there's these classic waveform samples. So we've got samples that have been taken from real synthesizers. So I'm going to take the Prophets, the Oberheim, and I'm going to take the sawtooth samples. So we've got some here. Just going to have a listen. Now I can only load one sample into Simpler, so I'm going to go for the lower one. I think that's going to be the one that's going to be the most versatile for me. So if I get a Simpler loaded up, we've got it over here, just going to drag it onto this MIDI track, and I'll just go back to the Finder and drag this one on. There it is. So on the keyboard now, I'm playing this. So the original note actually was D, all right? So that means what I need to do is to transpose down 2 to make C's. So I'm going to bring this down now. So transpose -2. Let's just take the keyboard up. There we go. So one single sample is being used here. Now what I want to do is I want to get this to loop. Alright, so it's going to become a starting point for a whole bunch of different sounds. So we can get it to loop a few cycles of the actual waveform itself. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to get that going, and I'm going to turn the loop on. So we're going to adjust the loop, and let's put snap on so that it's snapping to the 0 crossing points. In fact, that's where it is. It's probably going to be perfect. So we start the beginning of the sound, and then it's looping this whole area here, and that sounds perfect. So that's my starting point. So I'm just going to rename this, and I'm going to call this Synth Basic. So that's literally going to be used for all of the musical elements in my track. That's literally one waveform. I'm going to make different copies. I'm going to treat them differently. So I'm also going to get the noise up and running as well. So why don't I just take a copy of this, Command D, going to rename, going to call that Noise Basic. So these are like my building blocks. So I'm going to take away this audio track as well. I don't need that. So Synth Basic, Noise Basic. Let's change the waveform. Let's find the waveform prop noise. Here we go. Have a listen. That's it. I'm going to use that for a whole bunch of stuff as well. So I'm just going to drag this down onto the Simpler. Let's have a look. Let's switch over to the Simpler with the noise on it. Very rough loop point at the moment. So let me just see if we can adjust this a bit. See if we can get a better one, because it's trying to snap. It's not brilliant. I think what I'm going to do is do some crossfading at the beginning and the end of the loop. It's a little bit better. Let me just try and shift this over a little bit more. Maybe even just the length of it. A bit too obvious. Maybe increase the crossfade. I think that's the best I'm going to get out of this one. That's going to be absolutely fine, to be honest, considering what I want to do. So yeah, I want to make a whole track idea out of this. So that means that from those two sounds, from the sawtooth and the noise, I'm going to create some elements that are going to enable me to make a bass line, to play some keys, individual notes, maybe plucked kind of notes, some drum sounds, kick drums, snare, hi-hats, everything I'm going to create from just those two waveforms and using just simpler. So, you know, where do I start? I mean, it's a good point, actually. I don't know what I'm going to do, really. I think I'll start off with some kind of musical element. So if I take my synth basic, and what I'm going to do, actually, I'm just going to colour these so that whilst I'm doing this, I don't get too confused. I'll go for a nice kind of brown tone here, because I'm doing this literally on the fly. I thought, you know, I'd set myself this challenge and see how it goes. So, yeah, it's going to be quite a lengthy video, this, and, you know, I might make some mistakes along the way, but it could be quite funny. So, the synth basic, all right, so I'm going to use this, I'm going to duplicate it, and on this one, I'm going to colour it differently. Going to do a kind of green vibe. I'm going to bring this over here, and this one I'm going to rename as pad. All right, so this is going to be the first musical element I'm going to create. So let's have a look. What is it? Right, that's not sounding very pad-like at the moment. So what I'm going to do is to thicken the sound for starters. Right, see the spread down here. There we go, got a nice thick tone to it. I'm going to take the voice count up, so the amount of notes it can play simultaneously, so the polyphony up to 16. And also, to help me with this, I'm going to set up a MIDI chord plugin. And this is going to basically create additional notes for every one note that I play. I don't want to have to focus on, you know, my chords, what notes am I playing. I want to concentrate on the actual sound itself. So I'm going to use one of my presets, and there's a selection here that I've set up, and let me just have a look for something that I think is going to work nicely. Just take the octave up. No, I don't want to do that one. No. Yeah, maybe something like that. Yeah, okay, so I'm going to use that one. So that's my chord preset. You can see what I've got here. We've got on the first one, there's no change. You're playing whatever note you're playing, then it's +3, it's adding, +7, +10, +14. So, you know, that's creating the chord. Let's do something with the pad sound itself then. What I want to do is I want to filter this. So I'm going to basically switch on the filter envelope. I actually need to turn the filter on first, actually. Let me just take the spread a little bit higher. Now when we've got a pad, we want to have a longer release for starters. So I'm just listening to that now. So when I let go of the keys, how long is it taking to fall down to silence? I also want to slow the attack. That's the beginning of the sound. A little bit too much of a long release there. Let me open the filter for the moment so we can focus on the volume. Yeah, sounding nice there. But let's do the filter envelope as well. So we want to adjust how the tone is over time. I'm going to bring the sustain up a bit. We're going to make the release similar to the actual volume. Let's do this slightly shorter than that. 167. I'm going to go about 150. Volume. Okay, I'm going to make that a little bit different potentially. We'll see. I'm going to see how it feels. Where are we? 504. Maybe slightly longer. Going to see how it feels. Let's bring the frequency down, and let's increase the amount the envelope is affecting this cutoff. Okay, let's take the sustain frequency up. I'm going to slowly attack more. decay longer because it's too short there. Yeah, maybe a longer release now. It's working nicely. The only thing is it's quite a thick sound. So if we come down to the audio effects, let's just close this down here. We want to take a look at the frequency content. I can hear that here. It depends on your speakers, how much information that you're hearing as well. So just going to get the spectrum up and running on here. Let's have a look. So you can see there's a lot of low frequency energy, so let's go and grab ourselves an EQ8. I'm going to place this before the spectrum now so we get a contrast. I'm going to do a low cut. Let's take this up to maybe 170 or so. Let's adjust the actual cue here to make it a steeper cut. Yeah, it's got some nice movement on it. I think that will do for the pad.